let's talk about a quiet, personal struggle. That nagging feeling that, well, that your attention isn't really your own anymore. We're going to dig into not just why that's happening, but more importantly, what we can actually do to get it back. Just think about your day for a second. You know those days where you're just running, answering messages, clearing out notifications, hopping from one thing to the next, only to get to the end of it all and think, what did I actually accomplish today? If that sounds familiar, you are so not alone. It's a paradox, isn't it? You know, this feeling actually has a name. It's called the busy trap. It's this illusion of productivity that we get from just constantly being engaged, but not really in the things that move the needle. And the key to getting out of it, it's understanding that there are two totally different kinds of work. And this right here is the critical difference. On one hand, you've got deep work. That's that intense, focused, no distractions allowed concentration you need for the big stuff. You know, like a writer who's really getting into a complex article. And then there's shallow work. That's all the reactive stuff, the constant churn of emails, meetings, quick tasks. They both feel like work, for sure, but only one of them creates real, lasting value.
And here's something that might actually be a relief to hear. The goal is not to do deep work for 8 hours straight. I mean, our brains just aren't built for that. For most of us, the real sweet spot is somewhere between 1 and 4 hours a day. So the real win isn't about more hours, it's about consistency. It's about just showing up for that focus block day in and day out.
So, if deep work is so valuable, why is it so ridiculously hard to do? Well, here's the thing. The villain in this story isn't your willpower. It's not that you're lazy. It's that our environment has been perfectly, and I mean perfectly, engineered to grab our attention and not let go. It all comes down to something called dopamine hijacking. So our brains have this natural reward system, right? When we do something good, it releases a chemical called dopamine that basically says, hey, good job, do that again. Well, digital platforms figured out how to trigger that system on command. Every little like, every notification, every new video, it's a tiny hit of that reward. And it keeps our brain coming back for more, creating this cycle of craving that is, chemically, not all that different from addiction. And how do they do it? It's all by design. Think about infinite scrolling. There's no bottom to the page, no natural place to stop. Or algorithm-driven content, which makes sure the very next thing you see is perfectly tailored to keep you glued to the screen. And of course, personalized notifications, which are literally designed to pull you back in the exact moment your attention starts to drift away. Now, over time, this constant stimulation can lead to a condition neurologists are calling iris syndrome. It sounds complicated, but let's break it down. Impaired response inhibition. That just means you lose the ability to control your impulse to check. You just can't stop yourself. And impaired salience attribution. That means your brain actually starts to believe the digital world is more important, more rewarding than the real one. It's a really profound shift in what your brain starts to value. Okay, so that's the problem. And it's big, and it's backed by some serious science. But this is where the story starts to change. Because in a world that is so starved for focus, the ability to actually find it is more than just a skill. I just love this quote from Michael Hyatt, a superpower. That is exactly what it is. In a world drowning in digital noise, the ability to concentrate, to think deeply, to create something meaningful without distraction, that is maybe the single greatest advantage you can have. And the best news is our brains are literally wired to heal. There's this idea called attention restoration theory, and it shows that simply spending time in nature can replenish our ability to focus. It's this idea of soft fascination, like watching leaves move in the wind or water flowing in a stream. That gentle focus allows our directed, forced attention to finally rest and recover from all the mental fatigue our screens cause. So how do we actually put this into practice? Well, we start by reclaiming our environment. Since our surroundings were designed to distract us, our first move is to consciously redesign them for focus. We have to take back control, from the outside in. Here's a super simple starter kit you can try today. First, turn off every single notification that isn't from an actual human being waiting for an answer. Second, create some screen-free zones in your day. Meals are a great one, or maybe the first hour after you wake up. Third, do a feed audit. Unfollow any account that makes you feel anxious or less than. And finally, when you get that twitchy urge to scroll, consciously replace it. Pick up a book, go for a short walk, anything intentional. And hey, if you want to take it a step further, you can try what the author Cal Newport calls a grand gesture. This is a big, visible commitment, like maybe you rent a hotel room for a weekend just to finish a project, or you delete all social media from your phone for a whole month.
The act itself sends this incredibly powerful signal to your brain that, yeah, you're serious about this.
But changing our external world, that's really only half the battle. The most powerful, the most durable changes, they come from training our internal world, from training the mind itself. This is how we build the muscle of focus from the inside out. We tend to think of mindfulness as just a way to relax, which it is. But from a neurological standpoint, it is something so much more powerful. It's an active form of brain training with scientifically proven effects on the actual structures of our brain that are responsible for attention and self-control. And this is the proof. You are looking at actual fMRI scans from a clinical trial. Those bright areas at the top show brain regions associated with craving before the training. Now look at the bottom. After mindfulness training. They are so much quieter. This isn't just a feeling. It's a real, physical change in the brain.
And the data just backs us up completely. In that same study, the group that practiced mindfulness, their addiction severity scores dropped by an average of 3.6 points. The control group, who just did some relaxation exercises, only saw a drop of 1.1. I mean, that's a huge difference. The training works.
So what this all really means is that practicing mindfulness is a direct way to build a more resilient and peaceful mind. It's not just about fighting off distraction. The science is clear. It increases our self-control, it dramatically decreases anxiety and stress, and it just improves our overall well-being. So I'll just leave you with this question. If you could reclaim even 1 hour of focused, deep attention each day, what would you create? What problem would you solve? What relationship would you deepen? Because beyond the scroll, your most important work and your own quiet voice, they're waiting for you.